If you're raising golden lace Wyandottes or light Brahma chicks, you have just found the video to put your Rooxiety to rest. Our 2024 pullets, Brooder the laying hen.
Hannah, you're in the nesting box.
Like sands through the hourglass, so are the chickens of our lives.
What do you guys think? There's so much brood, isn't there?
Roo watch, when you're anxiously observing your brood of baby chicks looking for signs of roosters. Rooxiety, when you have anxiety about having a rooster or noticing signs of a rooster. As I was suffering from Rooxiety all summer, I really wished there was more breed-specific videos explaining the differences between pullets and cockerels. If only I knew what I was looking for, if there was just some early signs that I could point to. So let's play everyone's favorite game, the hen or rooster game. First, let's talk about the basics.
Here's the babies.
A pullet is a young hen and a cockerel is a young rooster. For my brooder setup, I use a Rubbermaid tote that I cut holes in the sides and the top and then covered them with hardware cloth by way of zip ties. I really love zip ties. I use them for everything. The only issue is I would get a bigger tote. I've been meaning to make a bigger brooder. Hopefully I will before next time. We use a brooder heat plate instead of a lamp. I like the safety of it and I worry less. Heat lamps tend to be fire prone. And I would recommend elevating the food and water dishes. This helps to keep bedding and poo out of the water and the food. I'd also keep them really close to the heat source. Many people use puppy pads or paper towels like the first week instead of other forms of bedding. Usually I use pine shavings, however some chicks will eat them and it can lead to crop impaction. Therefore, I always offer chick grit as well. Unfortunately, in this brood, we had a bit of a medical issue with one of our baby chicks. We usually have olive oil, but we didn't have any. So we had to get some butter. We had to put some in a syringe, and then we gotta massage her little crop. And it's hard. It feels like a pearl in there. Once in a while, she gets a couple tweets out. And, oh, there she goes. There's a couple tweets. Oh, she's having trouble breathing. I keep calling her Dot because she's got a dot on her head. Aw, and then we just pray for her. Dear Lord, if it's your will you please save little Dot? Especially if she's a girl. We want all our hens. I don't have any olive oil or anything, so we're improvising with butter. But it seemed to help a little bit, and she's not really doing very good though. Unfortunately, she did not make it and died in my hands, and it really broke my heart.
Oh.
The ambient room temperature I use is about 70 to 75 degrees. I use a thermometer under the heat plate to monitor that temperature. I keep it at about 100 for the first week and drop 5 degrees each week until they are fully feathered. I like to bring them outside for field trips when the weather is nice. She's never been outside before. She's the only one that wanted to come out with me. Now you can tell everybody all about it. But I make sure that they have the heat source nearby if it's needed.
Look how white you've gotten. She's in a couple days. You're not yellow anymore. Everybody got moved out to the garage because we're too big for the brooder. We're encased in plastic, kind of, at night, but it's pretty warm out here for the most part. and we have 2 heater thingies.
This particular brood, I really wanted to give these girls as much time as I could with our lonely rooster Jethro that was living in the garage at the time.
I want you to come out because I want you to look at the baby chicks.
We originally meant to give the pullets to him until God answered one of my prayers and we found him a home with his own adult flock with our new friend Nancy.
Oh, look at you girls.
I prayed that God would give me all pullets,
We're on Roo Watch. We're looking for red combs.
but I was having trouble surrendering right away.
See any red combs? You're getting a little dark there. I don't want you turning into no dudes.
So I began to obsess a little, trying to learn the difference between Wyandotte pullets and cockerels, as well as Brahma pullets and cockerels.
If there's a dude, though, we'll be okay with it. Yeah, we'll find you a home.
When I tell you that I obsessed over hen or rooster research, I'm not even kidding. I drove my husband crazy. God tells us in Matthew 17:20, "Truly I tell you, if you have faith as small as a mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, 'Move from here to there,' and it will move. Nothing will be impossible for you." I'm not proud of the little faith that I had that I or Family Farm and Home had selected pullets for me, but I prayed for only pullets. I had at least faith in God the size of a mustard seed that things were going to work out for the best. Obsessing over topics does bring forth a lot of knowledge for me to learn and share. I really do enjoy learning about the different breeds of chickens and being able to share what I've found with you.
I like you.
We had 3 suspects in our Roo Watch 2024, and only one of them was a Wyandotte. I started calling her Sus, now known as Nahum. The name comes from the prophet Nahum and the book in the Bible called Nahum, which prophesizes the fall of Nineveh. It also means comforter in Hebrew. The reason I suspected Nahum might be a rooster was because she would sit on the top of the brooder plate from day one, and she was the last one to grow any tail feathers.
I said I was never going to get any more Wyandottes because you guys are always such brats. But you seem really nice. You're so beautiful.
She has always acted as the protector, and then her wattles started getting bigger.
There is a Wyandotte that was just acting very Roo suspecting, and its comb is getting a little too red for me, and it's right there. Kind of suspect, a little bit.
And her comb area would get really dark orange.
Suspect right here. Hi, suspect.
Especially on the really hot days, which these are all signs of being a rooster.
Here's our Roo Watch, and my suspect right here, and the really dark wattles and comb. He thinks he's got a rooster. Right there.
Wyandottes have what is called a rose comb. It doesn't get really tall like what you would imagine a typical rooster comb looks like, so determining their sex was much more difficult for me. From what I learned, a cockerel's comb will not only get darker orangish red at a young age, like 3 to 5 weeks, and then turn bright red soon in the weeks after, but it will then start to bump up and get a definite indented ridge. Yet a Wyandotte pullet's comb will stay flat to their head and may develop a small bump at the top around 8 or 9 weeks. But then they stay flat until they get much closer to laying age.
It's not until a few weeks from their first egg that you will start to see a little bit of it raise away from their head. Pullets will have a very defined and symmetrical lacing pattern.
Cockerels, on the other hand, will have a much more blotchy and more chaotic pattern. Now, the way that I know she's a pullet is she has a very defined pattern. It's very symmetrical. There's no breaks in the pattern, and it's like it's in high definition. You can see the lacing very, very defined, and it's symmetrical on both sides. This one is definitely a cockerel. There is zero lacing in the pattern there, and there's a big giant block of black right here on his shoulder. We can see the difference between what a pullet would look like. That is a cockerel, and that is a pullet. Much more red here in the face, and the comb has risen up off of the forehead, and the wattles have already dropped. You can definitely tell the difference between the two pullets on the end and the cockerel in the middle. This is very much obviously a cockerel. You can see there is no lacing. Definitely a boy. We can look at these two. You can see how uniform the lacing pattern is. There's no breaks. Their combs are very flat to their head, and they're still quite light in color. Those are definitely pullets. These two seem a little bit harder to determine. They're a little bit more red in the face, but if you look at their patterns, they're very symmetrical and uniform, and there's no blocks of black on the shoulder. I would go with pullets. I looked at this picture and I said, obviously this was a pullet and a cockerel, but if you look a little closer, they post another picture and you can see a big break in the pattern of number 2. No real lacing in this area. On the forehead, he's pretty dark here. It's a cockerel, but sometimes it's really hard to tell. That is a definite pullet. It's a little harder to tell when they get a little more red in the face like that, but this is very symmetrical and uniform. So everybody says pullet on this one. This one, the face looks like cockerel. There's a big break right here in the lacing. The lacing pattern is very chaotic through here. The feet are also quite thick. It's a cockerel. Feather shape is a really obvious way to tell a rooster from a hen as well, but you have to wait until their adult feathers come in. And that could be like 12 to 14 or 15 weeks. Who in the heck can wait that long?
Hens have round feathers on their entire bodies, but roosters have very pointed neck feathers called hackles. Also, they have very pointed feathers around the base of their tail, known as saddle feathers. They are more wispy and slope down the side of their hip. Cockerels will develop long, curved sickle feathers in their tails that cascade in an arc.
That's definitely a hen. You can tell her very round feathers, and they're fluffy, and her tail has got the wedge, and there's no sickle feathers that cascade.
Yet hens have straight, fanned, wedged tails,
Really fluffy, roundy saddle feathers.
and they don't ever get sickle feathers.
My other two suspects in Roowatch 2024 are light Brahmas. Hannah, formerly known as Honk.
Did we decide we were going to name you Hannah? I don't know, does that fit?
Hannah's name comes from the book of 1 Samuel in the Bible, which is one of my favorites, by the way, because I think it reads like a soap opera. And biblical Hannah couldn't have children. She cried out to God. From 1 Samuel chapter 1, verse 10 and 11. In her deep anguish, Hannah prayed to the Lord, weeping bitterly, and she made a vow, saying, Lord Almighty, if you will only look on your servant's misery and remember me, and not forget your servant, but give her a son, then I will give him to the Lord for all the days of his life. God answered her prayer, and she became the mother of Samuel. Hannah made good on her promise, and she dedicated Samuel to the Lord. Samuel went on to be used by God as a prophet and a judge, and he anointed the first two kings of Israel, Saul and King David, my favorite.
You see any roosters? Any roosters in here? I got this really colorful one. He makes me a little nervous sometimes. Come on, ladies, let's come out. Look at little yellow one. She's not little yellow anymore. You're not little yellow anymore. You look beautiful.
Our last suspect is Nehemiah, formerly known as Little Yellow One. And she's also my favorite. Nehemiah, who usually gets called Nia for short, gets her name from the book of Nehemiah in the Bible. Do you sense a common theme here, everyone? I really do kind of sound like a Sunday school teacher, don't I? 'Cause I kind of am. Well, the prophet and politician and builder Nehemiah in the Bible led the repairs and the fortifying of the walls around the holy city of Jerusalem in 440 BC, and it completed in just 52 days. And his main concern was the protection of the people of Jerusalem.
You're so cute.
And then when I looked up what Nehemiah means in Hebrew,
You are the cutest.
it means the Lord is comfort, or comfort of the Lord.
You like that water better?
My little Nehemiah was like a gift of comfort from the Lord, and it seemed like a perfect name for her.
Ooh, on the phone.
The only real reason I ever had to suspect that Hannah and Nehemiah were roosters were that they had quite big combs and wattles, especially compared to their two sisters, and at a really young age. Brahmas have what they call pea combs, which don't get very big either.
You're just so hot like a frog.
And at 8 weeks old, the other two Brahmas had barely any combs and wattles at all. But Nehemiah and Hannah, they both had quite predominant combs. It was enough to send me down the hen or rooster rabbit hole. I've found that Brahma chickens are so much harder to determine the sex early on than other breeds of chickens. They mature a lot slower, and there isn't a clear feather pattern to judge like the Wyandottes and their lacing. So really, we're looking at any behaviors that might demonstrate that we may have a male, and we're strictly examining feather shape. Round, fluffy saddle feathers means hen. Long, straight, flat to the rump ones would mean rooster. But if they mature late, how late must you wait? I was in the 15th week when we moved the girls from the little coop to Tay's renovated rooster coop. I thought I must be in the clear by now. I ran across a comment from someone claiming that his light Brahma cockerel didn't get his adult saddle feathers until almost 20 weeks. Yikes! So, with a comb as large as Hannah's, I felt like at any second she could molt her fluffy round saddle feathers and take a roo-turn on me.
Let me look at your saddle feathers. Do you got any roostery saddle feathers going on there? I don't want you to be a rooster honk.
People, Rooxiety is real. I've been checking Hannah and Nehemiah's feathers every day just to be cautious. I don't like surprise roosters.
It's pretty weird. You're so cute.
From backyardchickens.com forums, this post says, I've seen so much conflicting information about this. I have light Brahma chickens about 10 days old. So many videos about sexing the chicks. Everything from yellow are most likely males to longer wing feathers at this age are females. Early tail feathers are females, and others say there's absolutely no way for a layman to tell until they are at least 9 weeks old. What's the consensus from this group on sexing light Brahmas about 1 to 2 weeks old? And this lady says these were her boys, and they look a lot like my girls did. And these are her girls, which looked like girls that I had too. In her experience, she's showing you this is the male wing on a baby chick, and this is the female wing. That's what I attempted to do in the store. The general consensus on this one is it's a pullet, although I kind of see some pointed feathers on the saddle area. It's hard to tell in pictures sometimes, but you have to look at the actual shape of the feathers and not the pattern that's on them. This is a 12-week-old pullet. I see mostly round feathers, and her comb is rather small. This one is a pullet. She doesn't have much of a comb or wattles. Yeah, I would say pullet on this one. At this age, you can't really do much feather sexing, and you have to mostly look at the comb and wattles and behavior. And rooster behavior would be like calling the flock to food, fighting and sparring and showing dominance, protection like being the guard dog, and, crowing, of course. Next, these ones all appear to be pullets with pretty round feathers. Notice how fluffy the saddle area is and that wedged, straight, fanned tail. This one has much larger comb like Hannah's, but it still has the fluffy, round saddle feathers. A little bit larger comb here, but the fluffy, round saddle feathers still. No sickle feathers in the tail. And here's an 11-week-old pullet. I can tell just because she looks so much like all of my pullets. This particular picture gave me Rooxiety nightmares. I just saw Hannah's head right there, and everyone's calling this one a cockerel. It does look like he's starting to get some adult saddle feathers that resemble rooster. So here's an obvious mature light Brahma rooster picture, and you can see his adult saddle feathers and hackles. This one reminds me of like a male version of Nehemiah. Like if she stood upright like a rooster and had the long straight saddle feathers. I also see a male version of Nehemiah when I look at this one. It's got a much taller stance, and you can see with the saddle feathers that it's male. I see a much more male version of Hannah in this bird. And kind of in this one too. I just kept watching right around the base of the tail where those feathers would meet the tail feathers. And even though she tends to look a little bit like a rooster from the front view, she doesn't have those saddle feathers. Hers are nice and roundy and fluffy.
Hi, Hannah.
And she's shaped much like a short little fat fluffy hen. Because that's what she is. This lady says that she's certainly not an expert, but she's raised a cockerel and a pullet, and her cockerel was way more developed at even 8 weeks. Well, that should calm some of your Rooxiety right there.
It's so weird. Tay doesn't ever act like this around any of the other hens. And he just started making this weird noise when they come over here. I've never heard him make that noise before, ever. You really like them girls, don't you? Yeah, you do.
Introducing the girls to Tay has went really, really well.
What are you doing, Tay? No. Come on. No. No.
And since I gave him the girls, he has calmed down so much and he doesn't attack my feet anymore. He also doesn't treat me like one of his hens. We're back to buddies again.
That didn't work out, did it? Not quite.
Are you up there making nests? You are. Are you making them a nest?
you kick out all the pine shavings. I'm proud of you, buddy. All right, I'll shut the door so you can do your thing. He's showing them where to lay. There's Nia. Hi, Nia. You look like you're gonna lay an egg soon. Either that or you're a rooster. You still see roundies? It's still roundy. Roundy feathers for Nia. That's a big comb, lady. Yeah, I've seen pictures of roosters that were your age. They didn't have combs like that. Well, hens aren't supposed to have combs that big. Look at Naomi's. Hers is tiny. She's got a little comb. And yours is huge. You got a huge one. It looks like a rooster. Same with Hannah. Hannah's got a big rooster comb. Hi, Miss Rooster Comb. Like totally a hen right there. But when you look there, oh my goodness. She's a miracle. Aren't you, Hannah? You're a miracle. Hi, sweetie. You doing okay? Nothing yet? Shut the door, sweetie. This looks like it's Tabitha's egg. Hannah is in the nesting box. Hannah, you're in the nesting box. That is so awesome. This is Hannah's egg. So that means Hannah's not a rooster.
Yes, God answered another prayer of mine. Miraculously, we received all pullets from the farm store. Of course we did. I surrendered all my chickens to God when I asked that He would be the one to solve all my impossible chicken puzzles. I learned to fully lean on Him and trust Him. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to Him, and He will make your paths straight. Proverbs 3:5-6. So that your trust may be in the Lord, I teach you today, even you. Proverbs 22:19.
If you like this video, you might like this one too.
That's why when mountains move, I say, looks like somebody prayed.